Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Tom Fox is known worldwide as the Compliance Evangelist. He is the founder of the award-winning Compliance Podcast Network, the only podcast network dedicated to compliance, and co-founder of the Texas He Country Podcast Network. With over 30 published books, including the seminal Compliance Handbook, now in its fourth edition, Tom is a prolific writer whose work shapes corporate ethics, business growth, and leadership culture. He's also written 3 best-selling children's books on compliance, making him one of the most creative voices in the field. Beyond writing, Tom has hosted or produced over 50 podcasts, won more than 30 podcasting awards, and posts daily on compliance and ethics since 2010. Today, in honor of National Read a New Book Month, Tom joins us to talk about the books that change leaders, the role of reading in building ethical culture, and why every business owner should be a lifelong learner. Welcome to the podcast, Tom.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. September is a National Read a New Book Month. You've written over 30 books. What's the power of reading new material in shaping leadership and compliance?
So I am a lawyer by professional training, and so that
Okay.
means the written word is something I have done professionally. I'm a voracious reader. I always have been. I love books. I love reading books. I love writing books. I love going to bookstores. I love talking about books. I have 2 book podcasts. If you're beginning to hear a theme here, it's books. And really,
Yeah.
everything I do from the podcast perspective, it's actually all geared towards a book. So when I interview someone, that can form a part of a page, a section, a chapter. If I interview someone several times, that can be an entire chapter. I update my compliance handbook annually, and it's based on interviews I do and blog posts I write. So for me, the end product is always going to be a book of some kind.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And because for a lot of persons, when they hear the word compliance, it's like the first time they've heard of it. Like, oh, what's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Could you say it again?
Oh, say for a lot of persons, when they hear the word compliance, it's the first time they've heard of it.
The first time I started
Okay.
using it, or I'm
Okay.
just not
So what
quite
I'm saying is that,
understanding the question.
okay, a lot of listeners, when they hear the word compliance, it's the first time they've heard about it. So what does that mean? Like, well, what's that all about? Compliance.
Sure. So compliance is about following a set of laws, a set of regulations, or even a set of ethical norms. It can be company rules and procedures. It can obviously be procedures around any sort of national laws. It can be following your contractual obligations. So there are different levels of compliance. The compliance that I focus on is ethics and compliance, which means doing business ethically in compliance and basically doing it the right way.
Oh, okay. So making sure that the business doesn't violate any of the regulations and rules. So is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And one of I think this is a follow up on the previous question I asked earlier on is what's the role of reading as regards to, because a lot of persons, the how do I say, one of the things about compliance is it involves decision making, right? So say, well, if we do this, we take this route, we might violate this. If we take this other route, we might violate this, and there's so many other factors regarding making that decision. So for me, it's how what's the role of reading regarding to helping leaders be better decision makers and also being enlightened enough to make decisions that are not violating regulations and their ethical decisions and actions.
Sure. So, what compliance does is give you a framework to look at the risks your business may face. So, I'm going to focus on the business part of compliance and ethics. Every business has
Okay.
risk, and that risk can be, relatively low. If you have a corner store and you take cash only, you have a relatively low risk, yet you still have risk because the cash may be counterfeit, the cash may be money that's laundered. It can have a series of risks. But the key
Yeah.
is for you to look at your business and determine your risks. So I worked for many, many years in the energy industry. And as you can imagine, there's lots of risks in that industry. And some of those are compliance and ethics risks. So, what compliance officer does is they look at a risk. First, they identify a risk. It's called the risk management process. You identify the risk, you assess that risk, you put together a risk management strategy, you train employees on that, you then have them go forth and do business, but you monitor the results of your training and your risk management strategy, and you upgrade or update or continuously improve as appropriate. So if you follow
Yeah.
that strategy, that's a way to identify the risk your business is going to have and then manage those risks. And the companies that are the most successful are those that manage risk the best. It doesn't mean saying no. It doesn't mean that compliance is the land of no populated by Dr. No. It means that compliance has looked at the
Uh,
risk. Yes, there you go. I knew you were a James Bond fan. So,
uh,
I could tell in your voice. So
okay.
it's really about identifying the risk and managing that risk and giving the business folks the opportunity to do business, but with the protection that they're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And for I like the keyword you mentioned is that it's improving, right? We're constantly learning and
Right.
we're constantly knowing better, right? And we also want that knowing better to reflect in our decisions, right? Even though we're revising those, oh yeah, we did say we're going to with the example you mentioned, we said, oh, we're going to take cash only. Now we're like, oh, we know better, so we've done this. So this is what we're going to do, rather than just saying we know better, but we are not doing better. Because a lot of persons, a lot of companies, they've known better, but they're still not doing better. And they're like, why is that happening?
Yes. So, what compliance is there to do is to support business operations and be a partner with business and move forward to help businesses. So, once I say effective compliance equates to more efficient business operations, equates to greater profitability. So, if you have effective compliance, I think you're going to have more effective business operations and at the end of the day, make more money.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I just want us to circle back to reading. A lot of leaders, they when you talk about reading, one of the key things they tell you, and let me use the exact phrase is that I'm too busy to read. I have a lot on my plate. How do you encourage executives to use reading as a tool to improve culture and decision making?
Well, if someone said that to me, my first question would be, "Are you too busy to learn? Um,
Um,
do you know
that's
everything?" Uh, I I have the really the opposite problem. I'm insatiably curious, and one of the reasons I love podcasting so much is I get to do exactly what you and I are doing.
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah.
Usually I'm on your side of the microphone, but sometimes on this side of the microphone. But the point is, I am talking to literally the top compliance professionals across the world.
Wow.
I live in the great state of Texas. You do not. So here we are having a conversation about books, about reading, about compliance, and we're both learning from each other. Well, I do this all day, every day. And it's not that I'm smarter than everyone else, but I'm talking to the smartest people. And so it really gives me a perspective. And what I can do with all of those interviews is I can connect the dots in a book. So, for instance, I wrote a book earlier this year on the use of artificial intelligence in compliance. And I interviewed 10 of the country's top experts on use of AI in compliance. They were all much smarter than me. They were all much more well developed in AI than me, but I was able to put their thoughts together in a coherent framework around compliance that hopefully resonated with the reading audience. So
Yeah.
that's sort of part one. But I think that I don't know any leader who is not a voracious learner and doesn't read. Every top CEO I know always has some type of book to learn or relax, whatever it may be. I love to read mysteries and thrillers, so I do that too, and that's obviously relaxation for me.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to read, do you not want to learn? But
Hmm.
you can consume books in myriad ways now. You can listen to a podcast about a book. I listen to the New York Times review of books to listen, to learn about books. You can listen to an audio book. There are services that will summarize books. I have a colleague that he had for 25 years has done a weekly book summary every week
Wow.
throughout the year. And he has an entire business model for exactly what you said, which was busy executives who may not think they have the time to read the whole book. Well, he actually sells that. So you can actually make money helping people read. So there's
Yeah.
no excuse not to be a continuous learner.
Yeah, I think for me it's a question of statements versus questions. So what I mean by that is if I want to read a book, I could say, "Oh, I'm too busy to read a book," and that might be the case, right? So that's a statement, that's a conclusion. I've closed the matter. There's nothing that can be done. It's a concluded experiment. So let's move on, right? Versus I'm like, how
Right.
can I
Right.
read and learn even though I'm busy and I have a lot on my plate?
There's always time in the day. Do you drive
Yeah,
to work? Do you walk the dog? Do you work out at the gym? Do you
yeah,
take a walk at night with anyone in your family? Do you just sit down and relax? And I get up very early in the morning and I work very late at night, but I have time for all of those because I do walk the dog. I do go to the gym. I do listen to audio books or podcasts when I drive. I live out in the country, so when I drive into town, so there's always time.
yeah. One of the key things that caught my attention about your profile is you've written serious compliance works, right, for adults, and you've also written children's books on ethics. What's the lesson in writing for both audience about how books can change culture?
Well, the lesson for me is I always learn more writing the book.
Okay.
I feel like I get as much as anyone by writing it. That's part one. But part two is that people consume information in so many different ways. My favorite way happens to be the book, but it may not be your favorite way. You may like the
Yeah.
podcast format. You may like a video format. My daughter, to my utter shock, watches YouTube interviews on Friday night because she finds that
Yeah.
entertaining. So you can use really a variety of forms of media, but when you put it in a book, you allow someone to study it. And specifically, the children's books you mentioned, they are just that. They are books for children about compliance and ethics, and they are, cartoons with captions. And so it's designed for the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year old. Well, what I found is rather amazingly, chief compliance officers want the book to give to their employees. because their employees enjoy an engaging way to learn about compliance and ethics in a way they had never thought of. And I sell as many children's books to chief compliance officers as I do to people who want to tell their kids, hey, this is what mom or dad does.
Hmm. Wow. You mentioned something about podcasting, and I'm like, in a world of podcast, short content, TikTok reels, and even YouTube, why do books still matter for deep learning?
I think books matter because the tradition of reading throughout history, the tradition of putting wisdom into books. I still want to hold a book and read it. Very old school in that way, and I still get enjoyment out of that. And I think uh, I don't want to say humans are wired that way, but we've been doing it a long time. And there's,
Yeah,
like as you said, there are other multiple forms of media that entertain, but I think books will always be with us.
yeah. Wow, wow. I think almost everything we create in the world starts with writing. Almost like if you want to make a YouTube video, like it's writing, right? You're like, oh, let me put a
Right.
script together. What do I talk about and stuff like that. And writing is basically what rules the world. And so having books and writing is it's I feel like it's a calming experience for me because in order for me to read a book, I have to shut down a lot of things. I have to like be focused, right? Versus having all these things going up in the mind, which watching a YouTube video, it's nice, but I don't get that feeling when I take a book and I'm like, okay, and I start looking and staring at the book. I'm focused. It's like it's an out of body experience.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm
yeah.
gonna have to interview you for one of my authors' podcasts.
Wow, that would be nice. Auto podcast, but I'm not an author.
Well, you can.
Ah,
It doesn't matter. It's about
okay.
books
Yeah,
and
yeah.
writing and reading. So yeah.
That would be a privilege, Tom. That would be a privilege. Wow. I'll be looking forward to that.
All
Okay,
right.
I did prepare a lightning round, a fun lightning round for you. And
All right.
it's a set of questions. I'll ask them and you just give me short response and answers to them.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's the first book that made you fall in love with reading?
Hmm. A Child's Garden of Verses.
Wow, I've never heard of that. I should probably check that out. Oh, a child's guiding up
It's,
verses.
yep.
Okay. The compliance or leadership book everyone should read right now.
Well, that's easy. The
Okay.
Compliance Handbook, sixth
Yeah.
edition, which came
Yeah.
out in April.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I'll put the the links to check that out in at the end of the episode. Paperback, audiobook, or Kindle.
Could you say that one again?
Paperback, hardback, audiobook, or Kindle.
If it's a large, for me, it's going to be some sort of physical book. My handbook is in a softbound edition, but
Okay.
I'm looking at the Oxford Handbook on AI and Governance, which is 2,000 pages in a hardback. So I
Wow.
can go either way.
Okay. Who's a favorite business author you admire most?
My favorite business author is a U.S. author named Michael Lewis.
Michael Lewis. What's like? Can you give me an example of a book he has written?
He wrote about The Big Short, which was led to the 2008 financial
Ooh.
crisis.
Yeah,
He
I've watched
wrote
the
a book
movie.
called, yep, his first book was called Liar's Poker. He was a commodities trader back in the 90s, and he wrote a book about that.
Wow.
He writes on business subjects, but he's I think an English major or a humanities major. So he writes from a very different perspective. He's a great writer, and he's probably my favorite business writer uh,
Okay.
right now.
Wow. What book do you gift most often to others?
Well, actually, I tend to give my most recent books as
Okay, what's
gifts.
that?
So, my most recent book, I published 2 this year. One is the book about AI and compliance, which is called Upping Your Game,
Okay.
Compliance and Risk Management in 2030. And then I wrote a book. I live in a rural part of Texas, and I have, as you mentioned, the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. And one of the podcasts on that network is about a group of women who are painters and artists. And I had interviewed them all multiple times. So I wrote a book about their journeys and stories in the art and their own personal journeys. And they call themselves the Magnificent Seven, and there's 7 of them. So I call my book the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, which book most influenced your podcasting journey?
Huh. I can't really say a book influenced my podcasting journey. I guess I can. It's called Podcasting for Business, um, by a Canadian woman named Megan Doherty.
Wow, I've interviewed her.
You've interviewed Megan? Megan and I are
Yeah.
good.
Wow.
I
The world is a small place.
Excellent. It is, and
Ah,
and I use Megan. Megan set out a framework for how businesses should think about using podcasts, and I use that framework in my talks, literally across the globe. So yeah, that's she didn't write that till 2 or 3 years ago, so it didn't influence my starting, but it certainly influenced how I think about podcasts.
yeah. I should interview her again and say, oh yeah, Tom
Yeah.
Fox mentioned your book as one of the book that influenced his podcast journey. And I was like, yeah, that'll be a lovely conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. A children's book that still inspires you today. I mean, you mentioned a children garden of verses. But
Well, I would say Aesop's Fables, if you know what those are.
ooh, you're the
They're
second person recommending that now. Wow, I know what that
uh,
that's fantastic. I love that.
That's number one. Number
Okay.
two would be Winnie the Pooh.
Ooh.
Uh, and number three would be probably my favorite book of all time. It's not a children's book per se, but it's called Huck Finn. It's a book by a U.S. author named Mark Twain. And it's about a boy who
Yeah,
goes on an adventure before the Civil War, and it deals with boys, adventure, racism, slavery, all of that. And I read it as a youngster. I've read it as an adult, and I
yeah, I love
always
that
get
book.
life lessons from it. Yeah. So that'd be
Yeah.
my top three.
And then finally, if your life this year was a book, what would the title be?
Well, I've had a very difficult year, so it would be. Um, uh, I guess either struggles and redemption or tragedy and redemption, something like that.
Wow, wow. Now that you said that, I'll be looking forward to when you write that book. Let me know when the book comes out.
Well, I will tell you,
Okay.
my town had a horrific flood on July 4th, and
Oh, so sorry to hear
140
that.
people died,
Oh,
and
that's
many
sad.
children died.
Oh,
And so I've decided to write the story of that flood.
wow.
So,
Wow. Yeah. Let me know once the book goes live. We're anticipating to read the book.
all right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom Fox. I know this interview is a bit unorthodox. It's a bit different from the traditional, but it's been lovely chatting with you. Where can listeners learn more about the work you do and connect with you?
Sure. So you can check out my network. There's the Compliance Podcast Network. There's the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. I'm available. You can email me at any time at tfox, that's TFOX, at tfoxlaw.com. And I'm very active on LinkedIn at Thomas R. Fox.
Yeah. Okay. The website is Can you say that again?
My website is the Compliance Podcast Network or www.compliancepodcastnetwork.net.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'll put the links mentioned in the description and in the show notes. Thank you once again for being an amazing guest.
All right. I'll follow up about having you on one of my pods.
Wow, I'm super excited.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye bye. That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.